Welcome back. In our last chapter, we have made the web app pod in the front-end namespace to talk to the middleware pod in the middleware namespace by applying network policies. We have also noticed that it was a one-way street, where the middleware pod in the middleware namespace was not able to reach the web app pod in the front-end namespace. So, how do we turn this one-way street into a two-way highway? Let's step through enabling full bidirectional communication between our front-end and middleware namespaces. This means allowing the web app pod in the front end to start connections to the middleware pod and allowing the middleware pod to start connections back to the web app in the front end namespace. Let's bring up our visual representation to see which virtual doors we need to open now. Right now, we already have two doors unlocked. Front-end egress, which is web app can send traffic out towards the middleware, and middleware ingress, middleware can receive traffic coming from front-end. To allow middleware to initiate its own brand new connections back to the web app, we need to unlock the remaining two doors, which is the middleware egress, which means middleware needs permission to send outbound traffic towards front-end, and front-end ingress means web app needs permission to receive inbound traffic coming from the middleware. Let's look at these manifests to unlock these remaining doors. Before we start writing the manifest, let's clear the slate. We'll delete the network policies applied in the last chapter so we can consolidate ingress and egress into a single unified policy. With those two policies removed, all namespaces revert to their active default deny state, meaning no pods can just communicate yet. Let's validate the connection between the pods to ensure the default deny policy is still active. The test results confirms that the pods can't communicate. We'll start by creating the network policy for the middleware namespace. First, in the metadata section, we can specify our namespace and give the policy a name. Let's call it middleware to front-end allow ingress and egress. So I've used MW for middleware and FE for front-end to keep things clean. Next up is the spec section. Here we define our target pod, the workload this policy actually applies to. For us, that's a pod labeled run equals middleware. Finally, we'll combine both the ingress and egress rules inside the single policy. By combining the namespace selector and pod selector, we can pinpoint the exact pods allowed to communicate. This network policy is ready to be applied in the middleware namespace. But keep in mind that this policy only grants access through the middleware namespace, and because a default deny policy is still active in the front-end namespace and blocking incoming traffic, we must apply a similar policy there for the end-to-end communication to work. Take a look at the policy for the front-end namespace below. It follows the exact same approach we used to create the middleware policy. Now, let's apply both these policies. They are applied now. Let's validate the connectivity. Now, we can see that we have re-established a bidirectional communication between the web app pod in the front-end namespace and the middleware pod in the middleware namespace. Using this approach we just learned, let's enable the bidirectional communication between the middleware and the backend namespace by applying the network policies. First, let's apply this allow ingress and egress on the middleware to backend, and then apply the allow ingress and egress on the backend to middleware, and validate the connection. So the connection checks confirms that our controlled traffic flow is working as intended. The web app can only communicate with the middleware, which in turn interacts with the backend to process and return requests. Crucially, the web app cannot talk directly to the backend and vice versa. The middleware acts as a secure bridge managing all communications between them. In the next video, we're taking things a step further. First, we'll open our web app pod so external users can access it live in their web browsers. Then, to cap it all off, we will simulate a real-world external backup service connecting straight to our middleware, the MySQL pods in the backend namespace. See you in the next.